What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another video on Stump Station. Today we're with strength conditioning coach William Wayland. He's worked with professional athletes in golf, MMA, UFC, powerlifting now. It's amazing to hear some of the athletes he's worked with. We'll be going through that a bit later on. We're going to be going through what it's like to train athletes and members, what it's like to work with some of the best in the world in the best sports, and how you guys can benefit on certain exercises in certain ways, and what is the best thing for you. So welcome aboard. We've known each other a while, and it's good to catch up.
It is great to catch up. So Liam I've known for a very long time. I've known him since he started out. So it's been great seeing him on this journey that he's been on, this whole YouTube channel, everything else that you're doing. It's really, really cool to see what you've done and how far you've come. So the motor mouth from Chelmsford has managed to make a pretty good niche for himself.
No, I appreciate it. When I started CrossFit, we were working together. When I started the gym, you were working here, and just started working with some MMA fighters at the time.
That's right, yeah.
And I was just starting my fitness journey, and I was talking a lot then. So I feel like I found my niche a bit more in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
And you've gone really deep into the S&C niche with on the highest level of athletes, which I think, it's incredible to see, Hopefully we need to get you out to Saudi.
Let's see if we can make it happen. We'll see if we can make it happen.
But if there's any golfers out there, fighters out there in Saudi that need an incredible coach, Instagram's down below, just to hit him up. I've got so many questions. I don't know if we're going to get through it all.
Sure.
But I wanted to get into some fun stuff for all the viewers out there. So you've worked with some great athletes, incredible athletes. Who would you say is the most hardworking?
Well, that's a good question, because I don't want to throw shade. I don't want to play favorites, but I will always have a soft spot for the MMA fighters.
Yeah.
Because I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, so I understand that aspect of things, how much work it takes to get a jiu-jitsu black belt. They're not just often jiu-jitsu black belts. They're world-class boxers, world-class strikers, and then the strength and conditioning they need to do to support all that is also world-class. So I'm going to say Arnold Allen, who's in the UFC, top 5 ranked fighter. The other one that's worked very, very hard over all the years is Corey McKenna, another UFC fighter who has put in incredible work. And both of them, I can't help but admire their work ethic. It's second to none. And that's why, they're at the top of the sport. I remember just before I left, you were working with them way before I went to Saudi. And I remember Corey when she was a little girl. 15. So seeing her, from a distance, I don't know her personally very well, but seeing her literally be a young girl develop into this incredible athlete is so good to watch. Yeah.
And that's where you really appreciate that long dedication and hard work getting involved. And I completely agree. They're the two people that I've seen start with you and stay with you probably the longest consistently well.
Yes.
So hopefully, if you follow the UFC, you know exactly who we're talking about. Another question, what is 5 exercises that you would choose for the rest of your life? Everything else has to go.
I do like these types of questions, because I think about this a lot, and I've got some stock answers. So big one is front squat. You watch my Instagram channel, you watch me elsewhere, I'm always front squatting. And it's because front squat gives us all the benefits of a back squat mainly, but with none of a lot of the drawbacks.
Yeah.
So, with front squat, I can still go heavy. I can push it. Don't need a spotter. I get a lot of the same systemic strength benefits. So my leg strength, my core strength, all that's going to be improved. But just with back squat, there's always a slightly inherent risk. Obviously, if you don't have a spotter, that's always problematic. And the beauty of this is that every time I do give back squat a go, which is every now and again, it never gets worse.
Yeah.
It never gets worse. So there's definitely an overlap between the two movements. My opinion is this: unless you're a powerlifter, you probably should focus on front squatting first before you learn the back squat. And this is something we do with all our juniors. We teach them to front squat first. Because if you get good at front squatting really early on in your lifting career, back squatting is way easier. But if you try to do that the other way around, try and take someone who's back squatted, since they started out, and then get them to front squat, that's a lot harder to teach them that. Other movements would be Romanian deadlift, which is another one. I've written numerous articles on Romanian deadlift for Simply Faster, and I've spoken a lot about Romanian deadlift. I even did a sort of masterclass series on Romanian deadlift as well. And simply, the hinge movement, which is the glutes, hamstrings, low back, all working together to flex and extend the hips. Deadlift is fine, but you're pulling from a dead start. A Romanian deadlift is a truly triphasic movement. So we've got an eccentric, a brief isometric, then a concentric phase to the lift. And teaching someone to do Romanian deadlifts, which is a top-down hinge movement, is way easier, in my opinion, than teaching someone to pick up weight from the ground up. Because there's a lot of organization that needs to happen when you pick something up off the floor. But standing up with something first, then bending down and standing up again, people cotton onto that faster. And if you're teaching the lifts, the Romanian deadlift is a great lift because you're loading the hamstrings and glutes eccentrically, which the conventional deadlift doesn't do.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to build athleticism, force absorption, and then force production, you can't really go wrong with the Romanian deadlift.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to Romanian deadlift, and if we push it and train it like any main lift, people are doing Romanian deadlift numbers that nearly match their deadlift numbers.
Oh, really?
So
wow.
Personally,
yeah.
as I can speak from experience, my conventional Romanian deadlift with a hook grip is 270, which is the same as my conventional deadlift. So if
that's kilos, by the way.
That's kilos.
yeah.
So if you work hard on Romanian deadlift, we've had guys push it nearly 80%, 90% of their conventional deadlift. So that's 2.
Yeah.
you need another 3.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
So it's okay. Let's throw in some upper body ones. So neutral grip pull up is a massive one, particularly yielding eccentric neutral grip pull up. So if you get good at pull ups, neutral grip pull up, particularly the lowering portion of a neutral grip pull up, because you've got so much going on there, from grip to forearm to bicep to lats, trunk strength. And there's something about that yielding eccentric movement on a neutral grip pull up that does a lot of good for most people. Going beyond that, and this isn't going to be a popular one, but I'm really fond of behind the neck pressing.
Okay.
I really like behind the neck. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
But I really like behind the neck pressing as an overhead press movement that basically identifies if you've got whack shoulders or not.
True.
So if your shoulders are busted up and aren't healthy, generally behind the neck press is painful or uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
It suggests that something's going wrong there. If you practice behind the neck pressing, in my opinion, it leads to better all-round shoulder development, which is obviously super important. And there's something about behind the neck press that also doubles up as like a upper back movement as well. But it's a good way of showing where your shoulder health is at. And if you can't behind the neck press, my suggestion is do enough mobility and shoulder work and reaching work that you're able to open yourself up so that you can behind the neck press without it being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That usually identifies a really healthy pair of shoulders, if someone can behind the neck press without pain or discomfort. So I like it for that reason. So that's 4. The other one, which I'd probably say that most people should try, is some sort of heavy split squat.
Okay.
So if you've watched, again, a lot of my videos, the hand-supported split squat with a safety bar is something we emphasize quite a lot. It's a great sort of quasi unilateral movement. So it is a unilateral movement, but we're using a hand assist. The fact we're in a split stance means that, yes, while it is unilateral, technically we are using both legs kind of. And with the split squat, it does a lot to open up the hip on one side while strengthening obviously quad glute on the other side. And you get that transfer to running sports like that. But the best thing about split squats is if once you've trained them well, you can load them really heavy.
Yes.
Particularly the hand supported split squat. I've got videos of guys doing like 500 pounds, 230-ish hand supported split squats for reps. And once you've got really strong in that movement, that then helps with all the other stuff that we get from our Romanian deadlifts, from our front squats. If we can do heavy hand supported split squats on top of that, you're probably gonna have a really well-rounded low body strength profile. So it'd be, those 5 movements.
Yeah.
I know that was a very long-winded
No, it's
way,
okay.
but I thought I'd be detailed.
No, it's better to have the detail, and it actually answered some good questions later on, so that's also great. This is going to be more of a personal question for you. What is your proudest achievement as a coach?
There are a couple of good ones to this, because it's hard to identify any one thing. I think when the fighters get into the UFC, that's always a big jump, because for them, making it to the UFC is just as much of a battle as being in the UFC. People don't see the hard work that goes in those regional fights, the regional shows, the blood, sweat and tears. They're not getting paid hardly anything.
Yeah.
And then making that transition. And once you get into the UFC, you get your first, free fight contract. Yes, you don't take your foot off the gas, but at the same time, that's always a massive achievement for a lot of these guys, because people don't see just getting into the UFC, the level of competition you have to get through to that point. And then I guess the other thing was when one of the golfers that I work kind of closely with won their first event on DP World Tour, because again, I'm new to golf, I'm an outsider. I've only been working in golf for about 7-8 years. So that's not my background.
7-8 years for most people is a long time.
Yeah. But combat sports is my background.
Yeah.
I came into golf as kind of a foreigner, an outsider. Didn't really understand golf culture, but I knew that my approach could definitely help these guys. And for them, one of the guys who I've been working with closely to win their first DP World event, and then subsequently, a week later, another guy who I work with very closely won his first DP World event. So that was wicked, helping these guys go from a feeder tour, the challenge tour, to then go on to DP World Tour. And then obviously as an outsider, to have an athlete I work with closely win a DP World Tour event, that was massive for me, because that was validation of everything I do. And then I guess more recently, again, I said I couldn't identify one. We had Luke Curtis, who gave being a professional golfer a shot, just couldn't quite put it together, couldn't get out of like the satellite tours. He's got a super fast swing, swings at 155 mile per hour club head speed. So for those of you who are into golf, that's very, very fast. Yeah. Very fast. And a year ago, he decided to enter long drive. It's a niche within golf of just who can hit it the furthest. And just after a year of doing that, he then won the European Long Drive Games, literally a couple of weeks ago.
Wow. And
he's about to head into the World Long Drive Games. So by the time this video goes up, he may well have competed in the World Long Drive Games.
Well, hopefully I can get that clip up and we get to see it, hopefully.
Let's hope so, yeah.
No, that's awesome. So like, the thing is, as a coach, I feel like you are so proud of them making the big steps, the big jump up. It's like in any sport where when you sign that professional contract, if you will, it's like, wow, like I've made it, but now it's like, now I'm in the big boys game, big boys league.
It's at that point, these people, I think they realize that this can actually be a career for them.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a short-lived career, but it's the turning point at which all that parental involvement, all that self-sacrifice, all that being poor, finally pays off. All that suffering and individual sacrifice, it's that point at which it pays off. And to see that, and to see the shift in them, they finally realize that I can do this. Because a lot of people don't see the suffering that goes in, and the personal sacrifice that goes into that before they make it into that next level.
Like, it's not just a time, it's money, it's social life, it's putting your body, your physical and mental well-being into everything, into one thing, with just one bit of faith of this is going to happen. So when it does happen, you're like, right, all of those years, like we said, Coriella at 15, like you see those years really actually worth it.
Yeah, she quit school. She
crazy.
She quit school. She knew 100% that she didn't want to walk the sort of ordinary path of a 16-year-old girl. Go to get your A levels, then go to university. She was like, that's not what I want to do. I want to be a professional MMA fighter. And the unwavering commitment, which is why sport has this beautiful transcendent quality to it. Because you think about people talk about making sacrifices and talk about suffering, talk about hardship. We live very comfortable lives these days. And these guys are willingly take this sacrifice onto themselves in order to try and achieve and attain a level sort of outside of the norm,
Most people they really only ever see the outcome. And no one sees whatever you post on Instagram is your highlights, your highlight reels, literally highlight reels. And no one sees let's be honest, no one's wants to watch some isometric movement that you've done in the gym. No one wants to see you grappling on the floor for like 2 hours at a time. No one wants to see those things, but this is what it takes. It takes hours every single day for a decade, and it's crazy.
Look at it this way. Mediocrity,
Mm.
consistency, and sacrifice do not make for engaging social media content. And it's that stuff that people miss. And it's that stuff that when that happens to them and they're having to suddenly sacrifice an awful lot, that's where it makes you or breaks you. That's where your perseverance and your character has to shine through.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the difference between the people that could be just as, quote, talented, that don't make it. And you've probably seen a lot of people that have the talent but didn't want to do those extra steps to make it.
Plenty of times.
Yeah,
plenty of times. And then there are those people that surprise us that for whatever reason, they're just so talented, so exceptional. They sometimes, and it feels unfair, it just takes them all the way to the top. And that does happen. But most of the time, these guys are working. I
think that's what a lot of people need to realize. That's what it comes down to be a professional athlete. So that being said, going from professional athletes to the everyday person, you work with both. And I know your gym now is transitioning a lot and into the powerlifting gym, but you still work with everyday people on a personal level, online. What is your approach with a professional athlete? And how does that change for an everyday today person? How does that change?
There are probably more similarities than there are differences. And a big thing is personal narrative and tapping into people's personal narrative, because the athlete is simple. They want to win. They want to win prize money. They want to achieve trophies, accolades. They want to be professional, whatever it may be. They've got some innate desire that they fully understand and are willing to then try and action to get to where they need to be. Most ordinary people have really nebulous and or fuzzy objectives. So for instance, big one is I want to lose weight. Well, what do you mean by lose weight? Is that a weight on a scale? Is that how you look in the mirror? How you look to your significant others? How you look when you post videos on social media? And getting people to pin down what it is that they really mean. Because when you're a normal person, let's use that phrase. When you're a normal person, you think about, what is it I'm looking to achieve? Well, if I stay nice and vague about what I want to achieve, I'm not then tied to my result, if that makes sense. The moment you define very clearly what it is you hope to do, let's say, I want to lose 30 pounds in 6 months. That's a very specific goal. Whereas I need to lose weight. That's not very specific. But the I want to lose weight is convenient, because if you mess up and if you don't make it, that's fine. And you can
lose a pound and be like, oh, I've done it.
That's fine. I've done what I wanted. Whereas if you're very specific about your goals, that then becomes a judge that then follows you around. When you articulate very clearly what it is you want to achieve, you're then always judging yourself against that. And the other thing is this: you're setting up your conditions for failure. And by setting a target, you also set conditions for failure, which is why people don't like setting targets. This is why the argument is made that process is probably more important than outcomes. So for ordinary people, they need to focus on developing a process that helps them get towards whatever their target is. Athletes know what they want to achieve. I want to get in the UFC. I want to make X amount of prize money. I want to win nationals. I want to win European championships, whatever it is. Whereas ordinary people, for them, it's not just about achieving targets. It's also setting up processes that allow them to achieve targets, but also sustain their effort across time. Because that's where a lot of people mess up, is they don't set themselves up in a way that allows them to sustain themselves and iterate themselves across time. So if you can set up your training, your diet, your lifestyle in a fashion that is sustainable and achievable over long periods of time. If it's not sustainable, you're going to do what everybody does and drop out and go back to whatever it was you were doing before. This is where people mess up, is their aims aren't sustainable. The crash diet, the crash training program, that's where people go wrong. So for those who achieve meaningful success in the long term, they set up a process that's repeatable over time, that is sustainable over time, and they just keep doing it day in, day out, and it becomes part of their habits.
Yeah.
And that's mainly the difference between athletes and normal people.
Like I said, day-to-day ordinary people, because they're not specific enough.
Yep.
They like to, what we call, try this, try that, do this, do that, go to different gyms, different coaches, and they make a little bit of progress to make them satisfied enough to feel like they're doing something, but they're not going to get anywhere near where they really want to be. And I think not being scared to set that goal and set that target of what you really want for whatever reason it may be, even if it is for social media and materialistic reasons, be honest with yourself. And the more honest you are, the easier I think the process is going to be, you know? Yeah. Guys, I hope you liked the video. Make sure you subscribe. Will's social is going to be down below. If you are a coach, if you are someone that wants to learn S&C and you want to be more sports specific, he posts so many great videos. And I'd love to send your videos to other coaches in those niches because they can learn so much. So if you've made it this far, subscribe. Check out Will's socials. Thank you very much for being on.
My pleasure.
Hopefully you enjoyed the video.